I want to talk to you about the 5 most important things that it takes to keep a law firm together over time. The acronym is SCARF: status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. It's the beginning of the year again, and a lot of law firm owners, this is when they do their strategic planning. And that's fine, and we all do it in a different way. But a lot of us, I think, we think about things like revenue, caseloads, growth, and our short-term and long-term goals. And that's fine. But I would suggest, and one thing that I'm focusing on this year, is what it takes to keep your team together. Because that's really the big problem. We work with a lot of law firms across the United States, and I own a lot of law firms. And one of the biggest things to do is keep that group of people together over a long period of time. There have been some studies on this. What does it take? What kind of group dynamics need to be there? And I think the best model that's out there, and this is the one I use, is using an acronym that is called SCARF, all right? 5 things, and it's SCARF. The first one, S, stands for status. This is where you think about and ask and explore how your attorneys feel, because all attorneys want some status on the team. What is the status relative to the team? Do they feel like a leader? Do they feel talked down to? Do they feel important? Do they feel recognized for what they do? And it's not just status on the team, it's status in the legal community. How are they viewed by the legal community? I mean, that's a bigger conversation, but there are many things that you can do, including having your attorneys sit on boards that raise their status in the community. So status is something your attorneys are going to need to have and feel at a high level. The next letter is C, and C stands for certainty. How certain are the attorneys about what's happening and what's going to happen and their future on your team? So this has to do with sharing things like the direction of your firm, what your intentions are for hiring, where you might be going with things like succession or their compensation. These are things that aren't easy to talk about all the time, but if your team doesn't feel certain about what's happening at the firm, then they will start looking for other opportunities. That's always going to be going to another firm or perhaps starting their own firm. So it's something we focus on pretty intently. The next letter, A, autonomy. Lawyers want a certain level of autonomy. They want freedom to practice the way they want to practice. They want to be creative. Maybe they want to set their own hours. Maybe they want to work from home sometimes. You need to understand what that means to the attorneys, because autonomy is so important. Now, I am not saying at all that there shouldn't be structure, because your attorneys want some structure as well. But this is about finding where structure meets independence and autonomy. So some of the things we do, we'll send a questionnaire out, or if you're really good and you have the time, and you should make the time if you can, sit down and do one-on-ones with your attorneys if you can, and ask them these questions to get their feedback. R stands for relatedness. How related does the team feel? First, to the other attorneys. Do they feel like they're related and connected to their team members? Beyond that, do they feel related to the team as a whole? And then finally, do they feel related to their own legal community? And there's a lot of things, again, far beyond the scope of this particular video, but focusing on how related they feel, how connected they feel, is really important. You might do that with regular attorney meetings. You might do that with offsite events. I know we try to schedule just offsite activities that include all the attorneys and all the staff, so people start to feel more related to their team. You can even take small sections of your group out to lunch. And if you want to make it a working lunch, that's fine. If you just want to hang out and spend time, that's fine too. But relatedness is also key in keeping the team together. F, fairness. And by fairness, I'm not talking about what's objectively fair. We are talking about subjective fairness. Does it feel fair? And if it doesn't feel fair, you have to understand why. If you don't stay connected to your team and even ask this question, what feels unfair? What doesn't feel fair? And you can ask it in a way that even disguises what you're getting at. You will not know, because what seems fair to you may seem completely unfair to the attorneys. And one thing that I've personally experienced is if we focus too much, when we start focusing on our support team, which is very important, the paralegals, the front desk, management people are dealing with operations. Sometimes if we focus too much, our attorneys think that's not fair. We're giving too much attention to that team. That's why it's so important to have your finger on the pulse of what is fair on your team. Guys, I mean, I'm going to say it in like a broken record. It is the hardest thing to run law firms. It's not clients, it's not talent, it's keeping talented people together for a period of time that helps you to reach your goals. And so there are a lot of different things you can do, but I found this tool, SCARF, to be one of the most effective. So when you're thinking about this, you should really try to incorporate it in your planning for the rest of the year.